Someone I didn't recognize added me on Snapchat one day. His name was Jason. I accepted his friend request, and he started messaging me shortly after. The way he messaged me seemed like he thought he knew me or something, so I firmly asked him, do I know you? He seemed offended when I asked that. Are you kidding? We've known each other since elementary school, he said, reminding me of our shared memories. I started to remember who he was. The more he explained, I slowly began to recall what he looked like and how he treated me in high school. I hardly knew this guy at all. I only knew him from the times he used to pick on all my friends. I was more of an alternative girl in high school, hanging out with the weird emo kids, and he was more of a popular football player. He used to tease me about how I dressed and always gave me a hard time about everything. Once I realized who he really was, I immediately blocked him because I wouldn't even give him a day of my time unless he was willing to apologize. And even if he did apologize, I might still not talk to him. After blocking him, I went about my business and eventually found myself on the dating app I was using at the time to make new friends. I saw a new message from someone named Brandon. He was very handsome and not repulsive, just friendly. He seemed really nice, so I gave him a chance. We started talking about our hobbies and interests, and many other things. It seemed like we hit it off, so when he asked me out on a date, I said yes. He asked if I could meet him at Olive Garden that night, but I said I was busy, unfortunately, and we would have to do it sometime this weekend. We agreed that Saturday night would work. I gave him my number, and we talked all week. Every day, all day long. Actually, I started to like him and enjoy talking to him. Around 8:30 p.m. when we met at Olive Garden on that Saturday, he said he was running late, so I waited for him at the table where the waiter seated me. He showed up about 5 to 10 minutes later and apologized profusely. Before I could say anything else, I just want to say that when the guy at the beginning of the story, Jason, messaged me, he never sent a picture of himself. I only vaguely remembered what he looked like in high school, but it's been 5 years since I've seen him, so he could look completely different from what I remember. But when I saw Brandon, my stomach felt uneasy because he didn't look anything like the person in the photo. I wasn't sure if I was just overthinking or not, so I decided not to say anything. He asked for permission to go to the bathroom after we ordered food. I took that time to look at his photos again on the dating app, and as I scrolled through all of his photos, I realized that he definitely wasn't the person I thought I was talking to, and he was 100% deceiving me. I felt sick realizing that, but I quickly composed myself and hurried to my car. I immediately blocked him on both dating apps and from my phone number. I put two and two together, and I couldn't believe that this was happening to me. The guy deceiving me was Jason, the guy I blocked on Snapchat and who bullied me throughout high school. I went home and tried to forget it all, and I thought that would be the end of it. Turns out I was wrong. About a week later, he showed up at my house. Yes, I said, at my house. I have no idea how he could still find my address. This guy was really stalking me. I didn't have a peephole on my door, so when I heard someone knocking on my door, I just opened it. It was daytime, and I live in a nice neighborhood where everyone is always cautious. So I wasn't as cautious as I should have been. I was truly shocked when I saw Jason standing there. As soon as I opened the door, he pushed me and barged into my house. That's when I started screaming at him and telling him to get out of my house. He quickly got angry with me and grabbed me by both my arms, threw me onto the couch, and started choking me. He was yelling at me and asking why I wouldn't give him a chance. After a few seconds of that, I don't know what made him stop, but I'm grateful he did. I really thought he was going to kill me. He ran out of the house and left. I called the police on him, and they tracked him down and arrested him. I heard he was released on bail. My fiancé and I just bought a house about 6 months ago. It sits on about 15 hectares of mostly wooded property, but we plan to do something with it someday. One day when my fiancé Tony was taking care of some business, I decided I wanted to take my dirt bike out back through the trails and explore a bit. After all, we'd been living there for half a year at this point, and probably only seen half of our property that we owned. I spent about an hour just riding around the trails, having fun with my dirt bike, until I saw someone in the distance. I was 100% sure I was still on my property, so I approached the guy. He started waving at me as I got closer, and I waved back. "Hey, Emily. Long time no see," he said. Sorry, but who are you?" I asked in the most concerning way. "It's Dave. Remember biology class in high school? We used to talk a lot." "Oh yeah, hey. So, what are you doing here on my property?" I asked. "Oh, sorry to disturb. I didn't know I had a new neighbor. I live right behind you on Oak Street, which is the road directly behind my house that runs parallel to the road where I live. I was just taking a walk, and I might have lost track of time and gone too far," he said. "Oh, sorry to disturb. It's okay. No worries," I told him. Something didn't feel right about the way he acted towards me, though. Despite feeling like he was hiding something, just his tone and his delayed response seemed very suspicious. "Okay, I better get going then so I can get back home," he said. "Wait," he said. "Maybe we should catch up a little bit. It's been so long since we last met." He started to walk closer to me, but I told him that I really had to go and that it wasn't a good time. I left and went back to my house feeling very uncomfortable about the whole situation, and I called my fiancé when I got home so I could tell him everything that happened that night. When Tony and I were watching TV as usual before bed every night, we were discussing the situation with Dave during the day. Tony reassured me that I was overreacting and being paranoid, that he was sure there was nothing to worry about, and if we ever met him again, he would tell him to leave. It was really ironic because just as Tony finished that sentence, there was a light knock on our bedroom window that startled both of us. We both got up to see what was happening. Tony opened the curtains and then the window, and there was Dave standing right in front of us with what appeared to be a combat knife. Tony closed the window and locked it immediately. Then he ordered me to lock myself in the bathroom, and he grabbed his hunting rifle and went to confront Dave. He found him in our backyard. We ran towards the trails, and that's when Tony fired a few shots towards Dave, intentionally missing him. But it was to send a message to him, meaning if he ever came back, that he would shoot him on sight. He left, and we never saw him again. We considered calling the police, but we didn't. We didn't want the hassle because we were worried that we would get in trouble if we told the police that he shot him, even though it was somewhat in self-defense. But because he didn't try to actually attack us and he didn't break in, we were worried that Tony could be charged with attempted murder or something. We didn't want to take the risk, so we didn't. Tony gave me my own rifle and taught me how to use it. I've been practicing aiming a few times a week with some targets in the backyard just in case I ever need it. I found out that he didn't even live near us and that he was stalking me on Snapchat through my Snapchat map. I'm sure most of you know, but you can actually share your location with your friends on Snapchat at any time, and it will show you exactly where they are. I thought I had it set so only friends could see my location, but I guess it was set to public, and anyone searching my name who wanted to add me could see my location immediately. As soon as I found out about it, I turned off my location completely, and even deleted Snapchat altogether. I didn't even use it, so I didn't need it on my phone. I hope we never hear from him again. One day, after walking home from school, I stopped at a park along the way. I started swinging on the swing. I live in a small town, but it's rare for the park to be completely empty, especially on such a nice day. I thought it was strange, but I didn't think much of it. Shortly after swinging, a guy I recognized from Snapchat approached me. We used to chat occasionally, and I used to have feelings for him. His name is Chase. We immediately recognized each other, and he sat on the swing that was right next to mine. He seemed a little annoyed and started questioning me about how I blocked him and ghosted him. I told him that my mom saw our messages and asked me to block him because of the age difference. I was 14, and he was 21 or 22, I think. I didn't think much of it at the time, but the older I get, the more I realize how wrong it was, and that he was a predator. What if I kill him? He says. He said this out of nowhere, and it pissed me off. I laughed a little because I thought he was joking. I immediately realized that he was very serious. I asked him if he was crazy, and then told him he should stay away from me and leave me alone. He started apologizing and telling me how sorry he was and that he was only joking, but he wasn't. I just know. I started walking home and he followed me. He gets very angry with me, and the more I tell him to leave me alone, the angrier he gets. I really don't want to take him to my house, because if he knows where I live, it certainly won't be a good thing, especially because of the way he talks about my mother. He continued to follow me all the way back to my neighborhood. We had been walking for about 10 minutes at this point, and he kept babbling about how much he loved me and how much he wanted to be with me. I tried to be as polite as possible to him and remain calm so that I didn't escalate the situation further. But deep down, I was panicking and wasn't sure what to do. I hoped we would meet someone, and moreover, I could ask them for help. But of course no one came out. Like everything, I also found it unusual, because usually on days like this, people are scattered around the park or walking their dogs, you know? We're like kids playing in the front yard or riding bikes, or, yeah, I don't know, like a soccer practice being held at a nearby high school that we passed on our walk or something. But there's nothing. There's no one there. There were cars passing by occasionally, but I was afraid they would ignore me, which could then escalate Chase's anger into doing who knows what to me. This guy was literally twice my size, and I'm not exaggerating one bit, so he could totally manhandle me if he wanted to. Before I turned onto the street, I pulled my phone halfway out of my pocket and secretly texted my dad as fast as I could, saying, "Emergency" in all caps. He probably called me within 20 seconds, and I picked up the phone. I started running towards my house and told him what was happening. Chase started running after me, and he grabbed me and pushed me to the ground. My dad ran outside, got into his truck, and started looking for me. He found me lying on the ground a few houses down in one of our neighbors' front yards with Chase on top of me. He rushed at me, almost jumped out of the truck, and started beating Chase to the punch. I'm pretty sure he would have killed him if I hadn't been there. My father told me to go home and lock the door and call my mother. My dad took Chase into custody, and one of our neighbors came out and helped by calling the police. They arrested Chase as soon as they got there. They also handcuffed my father until they knew the full story. My father wasn't even arrested for beating Chase because my father and I told the police officer everything. And we even told him how Chase sexually assaulted me and threatened to kill me and my mother. Chase is on the sex offenders register now, and he will be forever. My father saved me that day, and from then on, he became my true hero.